Hello, Broncos country, and welcome to another week of Orange Weekly After Dark. As usual, I'm Jason. I'll be with you tonight. Go ahead and start throwing your comments, questions, discussion points in that chat. Let the Fire Fangio comments start rolling in, because I'm sure we'll be getting a ton of those. But before we get to the show, just a quick word from our sponsor, Pigskin Podcast. NFL fans, are you hungry for a big win this week? DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL, has you covered. New customers, if you are a new customer to DraftKings Sportsbook and you can bet $5 on any NFL team to win their game, you can get $200 in free bets. Hey, that's a pretty simple bet. Again, that's $5 on any NFL team to win their game. And if they do, you can win $200 in free bets. So, if your sportsbook isn't available in your state quite yet, don't you worry. DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can still play for huge cash prizes all season long. DraftKings is giving away all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So what you have to do, you just have to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code TPPN. And again, just bet $5 on any NFL team to win their game, and you can win $200 in free bets. Again, that's TTPN for your promo code to use. Don't forget, you do have to be 21 years or older. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit for that $5 bet. One per customer. Any other questions, or if you want more details, you can go to DraftKings.com/sportsbook for those details. And please don't forget, if you or someone else you do know has a gambling problem, you can always call 1-800-GAMBLER. So on to the show. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Again, Orange Weekly After Dark here, following a third loss of the season, third week in a row. This one particularly upsetting since it was to the Raiders, and not just to the Raiders, but on the game that we were honoring Mike Shanahan, who particularly loved being the Raiders, probably more than any other coach this Denver Broncos team has had. So that was tough. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Travis, is it time to panic? I don't think so, and I think that's a great discussion point for a little bit. So hang on to that thought. We'll get back to that one, but do you feel the seat got hotter for Fangio after yesterday's game? Absolutely got hotter. I mean, you started out 3-0. Now you've dropped 3 games. You're 3-3. During those 3 losses, you've looked pretty lost team-wise. And if you want my full thoughts on the where the issue lies as a Fangio or the players, I invite you to watch last week's Orange Weekly After Dark, where I had Ray on, who does our Ragers podcast. Me and I have had a bit of a debate discussion on, Ray's all for Fire Fangio. As of last week, and still now, I would say that I put most of the onus on the players. I thought there were a lot of player issues again yesterday, and I think it was a mess. It was a mess from all over, all standpoints. Coaching staff, players, no one was ready. No one seemed like they wanted to be there. It looked very apathetic from the player standpoint. Again, a lot of player issues that I saw: dropped passes, missed route. I mean, there was a play where Melvin Gordon probably would have taken to the house if Noah Fant had thrown a block, and instead he thought it was a passing play because he made a quick cut on the guy who's supposed to block to get open and turned around for a pass that was never coming. And instead, Gordon only got 4 or 5 yards on that run play, when again could have been a touchdown. Early in the game, when the Broncos went for it on 4th and 1, brilliant play call. You can't say that too often about this coaching staff, but I thought it was a phenomenal play call. It got our guy wide open, our tight end there, wide open, about 5 yards past the first down marker. And instead, Teddy Bridgewater overshoots it and ends up being an interception. Again, that wasn't the coaching staff. That was 100% on Bridgewater. And other issues down the line, and the interception's late, not so much. We're trying to force it, trying to get back into the game. But yeah, at the end of the day, everyone's seat got hotter. Fangio, Shermer, your players that are always names being thrown around for trade deadline. Von Miller, his time as a Bronco, his seat just got hotter. Is he going to be traded now? Who knows? But here's the thing: what I do know for sure is Fangio's not going anywhere this week. No one on the coaching staff is going anywhere this week, mainly because it's a very short week. With us having the Thursday night game against the Browns, and so no one on the coaching staff is going to leave before our next game against the Browns. Afterwards, there's some discussions to be had there. We still have the Washington football team. And then we have our bye week after that. So we kind of have a half of a bye week following this game. And then our true bye week following that. So if you're going to make changes, that's kind of the time to address it. I am fully under the opinion, though, that we will not be losing Fangio this season. Sorry to say it. No matter what your opinion is on Fangio, if you think he needs to go right now or still give him a chance to right the ship. At the end of the day, we're 500. We're 3-3. We're not going to fire a coach who's 500. But here's the other thing is, and to my next point, Antonio, thanks for joining me. If you're going to fire a coach in the middle of the season, it's going to be one of your coordinators. That's who you go after. That's who you get rid of. That's how you try to change. If you're trying to cling on to a little bit of last hope, you get rid of a coordinator, see if a new coordinator can kind of give a different mindset, a different viewpoint, different scheme to kind of get things rolling again. But there's a reason why at the end of the NFL season, regular season, there's a day called Black Monday. And that is the day where all the coaches who need to be fired are fired on that day. There's a reason for that. And that's because most of the time, there's no point in firing a coach in the middle of the season. One, especially in terms of the Broncos here, it does nothing for the team. Firing Fangio does not make this team better. In fact, I would say it would even make them worse because Shermer would be next in line. So we fire Fangio, great. Shermer now is our interim head coach. How do you think that's going to go? Probably not well. Here's the other issue. It's not going to fix these player mistakes, right? All those deep ball touchdowns, our secondary is not living up to what they've been called to do. Here's the issue with this team right now, or the past 3 weeks especially, and what's worrisome, but still, I would say is just straight worrisome. Is the entire plan going into the season was try to more or less mimic the 2015 season, where you rely heavily on your defense and you hope your offense just does enough to win you games. Our offense definitely isn't doing that. We did finally end the longest active streak of not scoring a touchdown on our opening drive, but after that, we went absolutely cold. I don't think we crossed the 50-yard line again until halfway through the third quarter. But when your entire plan is to have your defense carry your team and your defense doesn't show up, that becomes a big issue. They were highly touting the secondary as the no-fly zone 2.0. And I don't know if they got that memo or not, but they are letting everything fly by them. Pair that with an absent pass rush. And again, mental mistakes, poor tackling, whatever you want to call it. And now another injury with Alex Johnson being ruled out for the rest of the season with a torn pec. And if that sounds familiar, it's because our other great linebacker, Josie Jewell, was ruled out a couple weeks ago due to a torn pec as well. So now our defense, who has already been struggling, dealing with some injuries on the back end, aren't doing their job. And it leads to a poor situation is what it comes down to. And so, again, the point is I don't see how firing Fangio gets anyone any better at this point. In fact, I would say to fire Fangio at this point would be a message from George Paton to the team. Hey, I'm already throwing in the towel for this season. I've already given up. The rest of the season, yeah, you're 500. Who cares? Even if we lose next week, this week to the Browns, which is going to be an ugly game. I'll tell you that right now, with how injured the Browns are too. Thursday night football games are always a mess as it is. It's going to be, just get ready for a bad football game. Whoever ends up winning it, I'm expecting this to be very ugly, very sloppy football game, which could actually play to the benefit of the Broncos here. But to fire Fangio, even if we lose to the Browns, to me, that is a sign of the GM throwing in the towel, saying, I've already given up on this. I'm going to start trading away people left and right for trade picks. This season's a total lost cause. Which, if that's really the route you want to go, then sure. But if your aim is to fire Fangio in the hopes of making this team better for this season, it's not going to happen. Firing Fangio doesn't make this team better. Makes no sense because, again, it's probably Shermer going to be the next in line. So, arguments can be made at this point if we need to fire Fangio or not heading into next season. If Fangio should be our coach for next season, that's fine. There's valid arguments on both sides. However, firing him in the middle of the season is not going to be the case. Again, Shermer, if you're going to make a coaching change at this point, it's going to be a coordinator. It's going to be Shermer. And I think that's a large part of what our offensive issues are, despite some of the mental issues. I mean, Noah Fant had more holding calls again yesterday. He's turned into the new Garrett Bowles in terms of holding. Bridgewater, 6 turnovers in 2 games. Not good. But at the same time, again, most of those were garbage time interceptions where you're just trying to force the issue, trying to force a touchdown, that type of thing. The 4th and 1 interception was all on him. Again, he had a wide open tight end for the first down. And so we keep getting to these 3rd and 8 situations, which our offense isn't designed to run 3rd and 8 over and over again. Obviously, clearly, we have the worst third down conversion rate in the league right now. But it starts with that play calling. And then again, at least another good point, these quick play, we're getting these 3rd downs. We can't convert. Defense is getting out there. They're already struggling as it is. They just don't seem like they're meshing on defense. And now we're just hanging them out to dry. We're putting them out there for long times to where in the game, they're just exhausted. Travis, I don't disagree with you. I think the Broncos right now are terrible. Not on paper, but they're playing terrible. On paper, this should be a 4-2, arguably a 5-1 team right now. But for reasons to be debated, this team has just been struggling the past 3 weeks. Kyle, if you're not, thanks for joining us, Kyle. If you're not competing for a title, why not build for the season? I don't see it getting better. And again, I don't disagree with you that it's not going to get better. And, maybe, as the trade deadline comes, if you're truly thinking as a GM, you're throwing in the towel, then yeah, that's where those trade picks are going to come in. There's already discussions, do we trade Von Miller? Do we trade away Sutton? Do we start building a team around Judy and Patrick Surtain? Chubb, do we trade Chubb? He's been injured like crazy, and so do we start getting this draft capital to start build for the next season? But at the same time, firing the coach isn't going to help you prepare for next season any differently. Because if you fire your head coach now, next season is going to be an entirely new staff. No head coach is going to walk into this Broncos situation and keep a single member of this offensive or anyone on this coaching staff. Maybe your offensive lineman coach, Manchuk, might stay. Outside of him, I don't know. I don't know a single coach that an incoming head coach would keep. So again, as a GM, do you start making moves, trading away high capital players to gain high draft capital? Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. And then you get in the conversation, do you start Drew Lock? Do you start working him in a little bit? Do you get him reps? Do you see if, give him the back half of the season to see if he is a quarterback, you want to try to build around, and we have that whole debate again. I'm under the viewpoint right now that you're 3-3. You make some minor adjustments. You maybe fire your offensive coordinator after this week. See if you can try to salvage a season. But as soon as you decide, if we lose the next two, come out of the bye, we lose that one, then yeah, maybe it is time to, nothing against Bridgewater. I think he's a great quarterback, but maybe we see again, if Drew Lock is our guy, if we need to draft a quarterback heading into next season. But this is another good point, and I don't know. Vic isn't going to fire Pat. Don't see it happening. It might not be his choice behind the scenes. And what I mean by that, obviously, again, you're not going to fire him, your coaching staff on a very short week. So obviously he's going to say, when he was directly asked this past Sunday after the game, he's obviously going to say he's not going to fire him, because you're not going to tell your offense coordinator, hey, yeah, we're going to fire you after this next game, but still coach this next one for us. So obviously he's going to say that, but I don't disagree that Fangio isn't going to fire Shermer, mainly for I think prideful reasons. But I wouldn't be surprised if behind closed doors, especially if we lose this next week, if he and Peyton have a bit of a conversation and say, look, if you want to stay for the rest of the season, Shermer's got to go. And kind of forcing Fangio's hand in that way. Totally subjective. That's not my perspective. That's my thoughts behind it. But yeah, I don't disagree. I don't think Vic Fangio is going to be the one to pull that trigger. I think if Shermer does go, it's going to come from above Fangio. Either way, I wouldn't be surprised after the short week, or again after the bye week, or heading into the bye week, we see some type of coaching change. And again, usually it's the coordinator position that you change mid-season. Sorry if I've missed some of your comments, guys, trying to get to them. Here is Rob, thanks for joining us. We'll see if I can fit this on here. Look at that. I'm going to read this out. Have my face in there. No pressure on the QB makes the DB play bad. D-line sucks. Shelby non-existent. Don't disagree with that. Von Miller's been absent the past few weeks. Fant has been awful, in my opinion. As Athletics top guys, can't break a tackle. Judy, when playing, is 10th best out of last two drafts at wide receiver. Again, a lot going on. I think pathetic does sum it up. I think Judy is going to be a great wide receiver, and I think he's a guy that you can build an offense around. I'm curious how he comes back off this ankle injury, but you're right. What it comes down to is our big name players are not playing like big names, right? Noah Fant was supposed to be this big time tight end, and showed promise last season minus some dropped balls, but he's up to 7 penalties, offensive penalties in first 6 games. That's pretty awful. He's struggling with the blocking game, which that's a big part of being a tight end, is being able to block. So from top down right now, it's a mess. And again, we're 3-3. We're kind of at that crux of the season where the players are going to be saying the right things, right? And we've already heard it. We've already heard the players say, hey, the leadership's here. We have the right leadership. We have the right players. We can still turn this around. They're going to say the right things, but can they own up to it? And it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. Again, this Thursday night game is going to be ugly. It's going to be bad football. Again, Thursday night football usually is bad as it is, combined with all the injuries. And just so you guys know, if you haven't been keeping up with the Browns injuries, Nick Chubb missed last game, was inactive due to an injury. They're calling him questionable for this game, but with a short turnaround, it's not looking great for him, other than Kareem Hunt is for sure going to be missing this next game. And so they need a back. So even if we see Chubb, it'll probably be more of a relief appearance for him than him being the bell cow. But Chubb and Hunt, obviously very banged up. Hunt ruled out. Baker Mayfield, his non-throwing shoulder, but still significant, injury to his non-throwing shoulder. He was supposedly getting a second opinion on it today. It's been going on and was made worse this past week following a hit. So either way, he's definitely not 100%. Odell Beckham Jr. Is likely going to be out this next game. Jack Conklin is injured. AJ Green, already said Mayfield, Malcolm Smith, and about 10 others who are listed as a limited participant in today's practice. So Browns are very banged up. And so, again, it's going to be a bad football game all over, which might play to the Broncos' hand a bit. So, hey, and here's where it comes to this season can really go one of two ways over the next 2 weeks. If you're able to get a win against a very beat up Browns team on a Thursday night where neither team really has much time to prepare, you have an extra long week, get some players healthy again, play the Washington football team, see if you can get a win. All of a sudden, you're 5-3 heading to your bye. Not looking horrible at that point. On the flip side, you can drop 2 games. Now all of a sudden you're 3-5 and the season's lost cause. So, we'll see. I don't disagree with this. I don't think Drew Lock is our franchise quarterback. I have talked about that on this show before. I think he's a bit of a lost cause for reasons outside of his athletic ability. I think he's not a leader. I think he is still too immature. I don't think he can handle the responsibility of being a starting quarterback, a franchise quarterback that a team builds around. I don't think Drew Lock is the answer personally. I absolutely think that we're drafting another quarterback this offseason. It's just a matter of how high we get, if we need to trade to get further up. But I agree. I don't think Bridgewater's a quarterback at this point you rebuild around. And Drew Lock is definitely not, in my opinion, a quarterback to be your franchise quarterback at all. Going back to Kyle, because you need to draft a top 5 QB because it isn't going to change the franchise by continuing to be the middle. Exactly, right? And that goes back to, we're going to draft a quarterback. Bridgewater isn't going to change the team dynamic when you're rebuilding. Again, Drew Lock, I don't think is the guy at all. I think he's proven that time and again. And again, the main concerns I have with Lock isn't as much his ability on the field, which is questionable with his decision-making and how easily he panics. But I think just him as a leader, him as somebody who you need to have be your number one leader on a team, he's nowhere near that. So I don't think either of our quarterbacks right now are the answer. So I agree. We do need to drop a top 5 QB. And again, depending on where we end up this season, maybe we trade up and try to get the top quarterback of this draft. But either way, definitely a change to the quarterback position upcoming again for like the 20,000th time since Peyton Manning. Can we beat the Chargers? Probably not right now. Simply put. Can we? Sure, any team can beat any team on any given football game. We just saw the Jags win their first game after 20 straight losses. So anyone can win. But if you were to tell me that we are playing the Chargers this upcoming Sunday, I would have zero confidence in our ability right now. We just seem too disorganized. We seem no one's cohesive, especially on defense right now. Our secondary is off doing their own thing. They either don't trust the system or they don't believe in the system, or they just don't understand the system. I don't know. But how many times have we seen wide open receivers deep downfield? Something's not clicking there. And with Justin Herbert and his arm, shoot, I would have a hard time thinking that we can beat the Chargers right now. Big mistake not getting Fields. I like Pat, but most important position in sports is a must. Still don't have one, and who the hell will be coming out next year? And that's a good question. I've heard, to be honest, drafting is not my specialty. So I've heard that this is a pretty decent upcoming quarterback draft class. I don't know. I would have to do some digging in that. Usually I don't even start looking at the draft until January when our season's over. because for me, there's no point right now. There's just so many things that change between draft boards and which players are going to decide to come back for another season for their college teams and which ones are going to enter the draft. So big mistake not getting Fields, maybe. I don't necessarily disagree with the moves that were made this offseason and in terms of what their game plan was. Clearly hasn't worked out so far. But who knows? Maybe we get a quarterback out of this draft upcoming that is going to absolutely put Fields to shame. So it could be a big mistake not getting Fields. I think it's too early to make that call. I wish we had a lot of people that we used to have in the 2015 season. I'll just throw that one out, Travis. So this is interesting. Interesting point to Travis and Kyle, what they're talking about here. It's George Payton's fault for not picking a QB. I don't agree with that necessarily. Again, I think they got an awesome draft pick out of Pat Surtain. I think what the moves they made, they truly thought that Bridgewater a lot could be that kind of middle of the piece puzzle that would do just enough to get this offense over the hump to allow the defense to run the game. Just like, again, going back to 2015, because let's be real, 2015 Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler were not exactly great quarterbacks that season. Peyton Manning clearly at the very end of his career was battling with an injury through most of the season. He was throwing more ducks than bullets for sure. And so I don't disagree that if they looked at this team, if George Payton took a look at this team and went, hey, our defense can be a top 3 defense. We just need a game manager type quarterback. And we think that Bridgewater a lot can be that game manager. I don't fault George Payton for not picking a QB. And again, going back to, we let quarterbacks slip through, yada, yada, yada. There are definitely arguments being made on both sides for that. I personally don't think at the time and the situation, it was a bad move. Hindsight's always 2020. You can always look back and go, well, yeah, that was obviously stupid or not. But at the time, I don't think that it was the wrong call. Let's see what else we got here. Lots of comments coming in tonight, guys. So keep posting them. I'm going to do my best to get to them all. Bottom line, Broncos are a mess right now. Again, dropping the last 3 games in pretty miserable fashion. At this point, I don't see Reisner and see the Broncos keeping Reisner and Fant when their contracts come due. I don't disagree with that either. There's going to be a lot of changes coming up. I can tell you that, especially if this season continues to spiral. If at the end of the season we have a losing record, even if it's just 7-9, I would expect a wholesale rebuild. New coaching staff, I would expect trading big names for a lot of draft capital and just clearing house. At that point, yeah, we Reisner, Fant, might as well get rid of them while we can get some draft capital out of them. Fant's been very, very disappointing for me this year so far. I was pretty high on him. I was hoping he'd have a good season, but the past few weeks especially, he's just seemed absolutely lost out there. He's holding guys. He's missing assignments. He's running run plays when we're running the ball. So hopefully he can turn it around, but man, Fant has been absolutely struggling. Kyle, great question. Will Teddy be healthy for Thursday? He didn't look good at the post-game press conference Sunday. I don't see Teddy making it health-wise the rest of the season with the poor offensive line, and that's another great point. I believe he was hit 17 times yesterday. That's a rough day for any quarterback, and especially on a short week. I did kind of hear some speculation that he might be a bit too banged up. Looking at the injury report, he is listed with a foot injury and was a limited participant for practice. We'll see. I think the assumption is he's going to be starting this week. Might be some merit to that, might not be. But I think it's going to be a pretty short leash. I think if he's looking pretty banged up early on, we're going to see Drew Lock come back in. But I think right now he will be the starter for this next game. However, to your other point, I don't see Teddy making it health-wise the rest of the season with poor offensive line. I don't disagree with that either. And again, it's tough with a short week. But yeah, anytime a quarterback gets hit 17 times, that's on the line. And again, it goes back to my point. Can you really, how much can you fault Fangio for that? The offensive line didn't come to play. I mean, how many times did we see them drop 6, sometimes even 8 guys into protection, and the Raiders were still getting to Bridgewater? We try to change it up. We try to, do some play action to try to give some more time to Bridgewater, and it still didn't work. So, again, just added that to the list of woes for this Broncos team is the offensive line looked pretty abysmal as well. Back to Rob. How many QBs we let pass in the last few drafts? Fields was the guy most important position in sports, and we still don't have one. And as far as I can see, no one spectacular is going to be in the draft. I like Pat, but this organization needs a 10 to 15 year quarterback. Here's the thing with drafting a QB. Anytime you draft high up, it's always going to be a risk. How many times have we drafted a quarterback that has been a total bust? Tebow, Osweiler, just to name a couple, Paxton Lynch. Anytime you draft a quarterback, there's always risk to it. There are guys that come out of the draft looking like to be the guy, and they turn out to be absolutely brutal in the NFL. And the flip side, there are guys that come out of the draft who look to be, you draft them 4th, 5th round. In Tom's Brady case, last round, and he turns out to be one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So I don't disagree that we are still looking for our next long-term franchise quarterback. But I don't know if I would necessarily agree with. I don't know if there's one spectacular coming out into the draft. There might be. Again, I'm not huge in the draft this early on, but we'll see. The tough part is you can pretty much write off any Aaron Rodgers speculation right now, because Aaron Rodgers is not going to come to a team who's rebuilding. So that dream is out the window. So it's going to be drafting quarterback, and we'll have to see who they end up getting. I think Tom McMahon sent a thank you card to Shermer for taking the attention off him. Yeah, might be a good point. McMahon was definitely taking heat for a while, and now it's right back on to Shermer. I would have really thought that McMahon was going to be the first coach fired under this staff. Now I would absolutely bet that's going to be Shermer for sure. Outcoached by special teams coach says it all. I would add to that, not just outcoached, but just outclassed from top to bottom. Raiders came, from my perspective, looked like the Raiders came knowing that their season was on the line and was playing for their season. Broncos were there because they wanted to collect a paycheck. They wanted to play a game, get their paycheck, and go home. They seemed uninspired from the start. Again, mental issues all over. And Broncos are at the bottom of the division easily. Obviously, Chiefs are going to end up, it's going to be between if I had to guess, the Chiefs and the Chargers. Probably the Chiefs, if I had to guess. Lost to the Raiders, and again, I don't think we can beat the Chargers right now. So it's going to be tough. The AFC West isn't a bad division by any means between those 3 teams that I just mentioned. The Broncos are on a class on their own. But either way, again, it's probably going to be another year where we're at the very bottom. Another good point, though. Who told Vic to challenge those plays? It's supposed to come from the upstairs. Yes and no. I think the first one, I don't know, because it was very obvious that he was going to lose that challenge right off the bat. So I don't know who told him, or if he decided to do it anyways. I don't know. The second challenge, I think, was just out of desperation. At that point, you're just hoping something goes your way. And so it was a big play. You're hoping that, maybe he bobbled it, dropped it, whatever. So we'll see what comes of that situation as well. But you're right. 2 poor challenges. But again, I think one was more out of desperation. I think the difference of this offense 2015 is coach put the QB in a place to be successful. This coach that's I don't disagree with that at all. Again, I think our play calling is what's leading us to be third and long. And we don't have an offense that can handle third and longs. Maybe every once in a while, but when we're averaging 3rd and 8, good luck, right? And so that's a really good point. And the 2015, while the quarterbacks of 2015 weren't by any means top of the league, the play calling, the scheming, the planning really put them in successful situations. And it still helped that while Manning's athletic ability at that point was underwater, his vision was still there. So he could still read defenses. He could still pick apart defense. He could still audible, which is something I think we all miss seeing is the quarterback going out there and just picking apart the defense, seeing what they're doing and adjusting things and just picking them apart. And that's why I think if we're going to fire a coach anytime soon, it's going to be Shermer, because he's the offensive guy, right? Obviously, Fangio is all about defense. He's been a defensive coach his whole life. That's what he knows. That's his specialty. Shermer, therefore, is supposed to be the offensive specialist, if you will, on this team. And so the fact that he can't figure something out to get this offense working, and again, there's a lot in the players too, right? Again, the play call on 4th and 1 was a brilliant dialed up play. Bridgewater missed his pass. There was another great call to Melvin Gordon, who might have taken it all the way to the house. Noah Fant thought it was a pass play and missed his block. So again, lots of issues all across the board. Bridgewater holds the ball too long. I would make the argument at the same time his receivers can't even get open right now. And part of that's, we're missing Jerry Jeudy, I think, a lot more than a lot of people realize. But when your receivers aren't getting open, it's hard to do. And again, it goes another point, offensive line. The offensive line can't protect. And so we're dropping more and more guys in protection, and that leaves fewer people eligible to receive the ball. So when everybody's blocking for Teddy Bridgewater, there's only 3 guys who can receive it. Well, everyone's in double coverage at that point. So it just starts to get into this huge spiral of an issue. Desean Watson, probably not. Would not get your hopes up on that one. Vic answers why he challenged was asinine. I actually missed that, to be honest with you. So if you're able to, Kyle, if you can throw up what he said real quick, I'll share it. Because I'm very curious. I'm very curious because I missed it. I was so disgusted. I saw bits and pieces of his presser, but I definitely didn't watch the full thing. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he said something stupid just to try to cover some rationale he had. But at least he used his timeouts. Okay. All right, Rob. He makes me miss Joseph and all those good weeks of practice. I miss having a good coach. That's what I miss. Vance Joseph. Shoot, he won a game this Sunday as acting co-head coach for the Cardinals. Yeah, I guess at least with Joseph, we kept getting great reports of good weeks of practice. But I don't know if I would go as far to say I miss Joseph. I think Vance Joseph might have been Elway's biggest mistake, honestly, in his entire time as a GM. I think that's what truly set this team back several years, and we've just been kind of spinning our wheels since then. Red Cloud, thanks for joining us. Unacceptable. I agree. And again, anytime you lose to the Raiders, unacceptable, especially at home. Losing to the Raiders at home is disgusting and should never happen. First one, the Denver way. The Denver way used to be winning. That was fun. Denver way used to be, winning 12 games a season and having a first round bye week. Here's the issue, guys. What it boils down to, in my opinion, because we can make all these arguments, right? Fangio's been rough. Shermer's been awful. Players have been absent. Where's Von Miller been? Where's, Sutton was absent. Bridgewater all of a sudden is looking below average. Drew Lock's not our guy. Offensive line is terrible. Our run game is hit or miss. For me, what it really comes down to and why I think this is going to be a long-term problem, if I'm to be just honest with everyone. And what I mean by long-term problem, is indefinitely until the Broncos have a legitimate owner. I think until the Broncos have an actual owner, these are the issues we're going to continue to find because there's just not enough accountability. There's not enough accountability top down. And so until we find someone, passionate, a passionate owner like we used to have in Mr. Bolin, I don't see these issues going away. And that's a tough thing to say as a Broncos fan is, we've been on this kind of skid, this spiral since the Super Bowl victory in 2015. So this is now, we're 2021. Things keep looking up and then down, but trending downwards overall. One step forward, two steps back. And the issue that I see is this isn't fixable anytime soon. The issues I'm seeing aren't just a coaching staff. The issues I'm seeing are not just a few players. The issue is lack of ownership. Lack of ownership leads to lack of accountability. And you know what? I'm going to have to share this with the group. Maybe we start a GoFundMe and we can get some money going for us so we can buy the Broncos and be owners. As long as, because you brought it up on my show, Red Cloud, I get the majority of the share. I would gladly be the owner of the Broncos. And I would gladly consult you for all my big time decisions. But that's the issue, right? Is there's no accountability top down. And so if we head into next offseason, sure, we can have a coaching change. Sure, we can draft another quarterback. Sure, we can start a rebuild process. But until we get an owner who can actually hold people accountable, we're going to see these issues. And that's a tough thing to stomach because, I think everyone here, like Henry, we're going to love Broncos for life, right? I believe we'll be okay eventually, right? No football team, goes 50 years dwelling in the basement. There's turnover, right? There's a little bit of parity in the NFL. I'm not saying 20 years from now we're going to be looking and saying the same exact things. But if you're to ask me what the 5-year outlook is, unless we have an owner, we're going to be right here in 5 years where we are right now. If we get an owner before then, I think things can turn around. But until we get a true owner, stop this infighting that's going on at the top level, the legal battles, all of that. It's going to be a struggle. So we'll see. Shane, what's going on with our team? Everything wrong. Everything wrong is going. We are dealing with injuries like crazy. They look unprepared. They look unmotivated. The coaching staff continues to throw out perplexing decisions. Hail Mary desperation challenges. There's a lot of things going wrong with this team right now. But I will say this, guys. I will say this. A win fixes a lot. Winning fixes a lot. So one win is going to cool down a lot of people. I don't know if we're going to make the playoffs at this point. But what I will say is there's a chance if we win Thursday. And being 4-3 sounds a lot better than 3-4. On a normal week, I would say it'd be a very large challenge for the Broncos to beat the Browns this season. However, again, with a short week and with the Browns being arguably more beat up than the Broncos are right now, Broncos have a chance to steal a game. You steal that game, who knows what that spurs. Could get on big on a win streak again. Players start calming down a little bit, start trusting each other a little bit more. Coaches stop making completely asinine decisions based on desperation because they feel like their job's on the line. So we'll see. A win fixes a lot. And Kyle, to your last point that I will make, has to be the right owner, hands-on, not just a owner in name only. I totally agree. And that's the challenge, is finding that right owner. Our field goal kicker is still great. Love Brandon McManus. I'm sure Brandon McManus is listening to this show right now because what else would he have to do late night on Monday? So, Brandon, keep kicking the heck out of the ball. You are our one bright spot at the moment. All right, guys, I want to wrap up for tonight. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for so many comments tonight. This show has been absolutely awesome. It's been probably the best one of the season, despite being on the heels of one of the worst losses of the season. So please continue to join me again. Orange Weekly After Dark will start following the Monday Night Football games throughout the rest of the season. Be sure to tune in for the rest of our week as well. Again, our main flagship show tomorrow at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We've got podcasts coming at you. We've got Ragers. If you're into the sports betting world, we've got our tailgate talk, which takes place an hour before the game. We've got halftime hash. Obviously, during the halftime show, if you want to talk Broncos football at halftime instead of watching commercials for the entire half. We got a lot of content coming to you guys. So we always enjoy it when you guys come on and enter your thoughts because we don't want to just talk about our own thoughts the entire time. It's a lot more fun with you guys. So thank you for joining us. Truly appreciative. If you haven't already, if you can give our pages a follow, our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and give us some shares, give us some good reviews to help us keep this page growing. Because again, this is a lot of fun when we can talk to you guys, and maybe down the road we can start bringing some on for some guest appearances. I think that'd be fun. So please keep looking for that information coming down the pipeline. Give our stuff a like, follow, and hang in there. At the end of the day, yeah, it's another rough situation. Things are looking bleak right now, but hey, we're all Broncos fans. We're all in this together, one way or the other. We all ride or die Broncos, right? So hang in there, support each other in these trying times of being a Bronco fan. But you guys are all awesome. Appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Have a great rest of your night. And as always, go Broncos.